regrets from Chair Haley, who is out of the country, and Councillor Pierce, who has a prior commitment. I'm seeking approval of the agenda. Are there any additions? I'd like to have one item. The OPP request for camera funding to be added as number 8.3. I'm seeking a motion to approve the agenda. Mayor Bailey, seconded by Member Verhey.
As amended, Mr. Chair.
As amended. All in favor? Carried. Do we have any declarations of pecuniary interests? Seeing none, we have no delegations or petitions with us today. We'll move on to the adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting. Seeking a motion to approve the Police Services Board minutes of January 17th, 2023. Motion by Member Verhey, seconded by Mayor Bailey. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Correct, any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we'll move right into Inspector Quinville's report.
Good morning, everyone. Getting right into the report, in terms of staffing for this past reporting period, we have received notice that we will be receiving 3 experienced police officers that will begin their training with the OPP this month and arriving at Brant Detachment after March 17th. In terms of our community safety and well-being team, our MCERT worker attended 7 crisis calls during the month. In addition, there were 7 COAST referrals for mental health follow-up. Of note, PC Murphy began planning the senior symposium that is later in the agenda, scheduled for February 28th, that will have a focus on traffic, driving safety, senior fraud and scams, and personal safety. There will be a number of OPP presenters in attendance, and this presentation is geared to our seniors in our community. The mental health related occurrences for January year to date 25, certainly in keeping with the last 3 years when we look at a trend analysis. So we're trending the same as we have January of 21 and 22. Of the mental health incidents during this reporting period, officers spent just under 10 hours in the emergency department in Brantford General Hospital for the 5 apprehensions, and there's a breakdown of the time spent, anywhere from 49 minutes to 3 hours and 48 minutes spent during the transition of care for those apprehended. In terms of the Youth and School Resource Officer, as we are all well aware, the program is under suspension or on pause with the Public School Board, but PC Gagnon continues to provide the OPP Kids program at schools in our separate system in Brant County. In terms of our community engagement, there were 6 focus patrols that officers were participating in during this month, for a total of just under 31 hours dedicated to these specific areas within the county. 23 Part 1 tickets, 7 Part 3s, 1 criminal code, and 9 warnings. In terms of our traffic management unit, 223 Part 1 charges laid in January alone. As I touched on at our last meeting, it looked like one of our TMU members was tracking to be the highest number of enforcement tickets in the province, and now that I have the year-to-date numbers, I can confirm that he was in fact the highest in the province. In terms of our Crime Stopper numbers, there was just 5 for January. Of note, Staff Sergeant McTaggart and I met with the Crime Stoppers officer this past month, and there's a plan to certainly increase visibility of the Crime Stoppers program within Brant County to ensure citizens are aware and take advantage of this great resource. Crime Stoppers is planning an event for April, a fundraising event, and more details to follow on that. In terms of our noteworthy events for January, I think, having had an opportunity to review the incidents provided, impaired driving offenses continue to be a challenge within Brant County. Having said that, I did reach out to MAD Canada to see if there was a chapter and what that looks like for Brant. There is not a chapter in Brant or Brantford. So the MAD program is entirely volunteer driven, so I'm sharing that in the interest of recruiting any potential citizens to initiate that program within our county. Our CSCU work this past month. Of note, on January 24th, the CSCU members executed a search warrant on a property in St. George. There was 11 persons inside with thousands of growing cannabis plants in various stages of, in various locations within the home. There was 2 individual certificates to grow, approximately 926 plants in total. As a result of the search warrant, police seized just under 8,000 cannabis plants and 8.3 pounds of dried, processed, and packaged cannabis marijuana. The estimated potential street value of the cannabis seized in this incident is just under $8 million. All the persons located inside were arrested and charged under the Cannabis Act. This incident demonstrated a great collaboration with our bylaw enforcement officers here in Brant County. And the additional data there for noteworthy events demonstrates that our time team, our Highway Safety Division officers, are also very active in Brant County. They have an office within our building, and certainly we benefit from them traveling to and from within our detachment area. In terms of the trends and actions for January, violent crime for January is up just over 35% compared to January of 22. Property crime shows a decrease for this past month, and drug crime also shows a decrease. In relation to our motor vehicle collisions, there was 1 roadway fatality in January. Personal injury collisions continue to show a decrease compared to January of 22, and we're still seeing an increase in property damage collisions, and overall a 24.6 increase for all motor vehicle collisions. Overall, vehicle-related property shows a decrease for January of 25.8%. There were 8 stolen vehicles this month, although that is a decrease from what we've experienced the previous 2 Januaries. There were also fewer recoveries of stolen motor vehicles by 50% this month as well. Theft for motor vehicle occurrences returned up after a slight decrease in December. Our mental health calls showed an increase over January 21-22 levels, and 911 calls were down for January, just by slightly over 12%. Alarm calls were also down, and domestic disturbance calls were down by 28% from last January. At our last meeting, there was interest when I presented the impaired driving stats to do a little bit more analysis to learn a little bit more about the offenses and charges that were occurring. So this was for the festive ride season. So from November 17th to January 2nd, there were 16 impaired occurrences during that time. Of those occurrences, they resulted in 47 charges. Of the occurrences reported, 31% were on a Friday, 44% were between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. 44% of the occurrences were reported to have occurred in East Brant. 25% of the persons charged reported a home address within Brant County. Everyone charged was a male, and the average age was 41. 2 people had previous impaired driving charges on file with the OPP. 25% of the occurrences occurred at a ride program. Of the persons charged, 2 were prohibited drivers and 1 was unlicensed. 6 of these incidents involved a collision. 88% were reported impaired by alcohol versus drug. And I have additional details if there's any questions in relation to that, but that is the analysis from the impaired incidents over the festive ride season. And that is my report.
Thank you, Inspector Quenville, for that very thorough and concise report. Do we have any questions? I have 2 quick comments. It's nice to see that the school resource officers are still active with the separate school board and doing what they're there to do. So that's good news from that standpoint. The Brantford General Hospital, the wait times. There is a group currently looking into that. Is there not?
So I have been in contact with the risk management chair from Brantford General, and we are moving forward with establishing our MOU for transition of care. So that collaboration is ongoing right now.
And you're part of that committee or that group?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Okay, I'm seeking a motion to approve. Sorry, Member Verhey.
Sorry, I was waiting for you to go first with your questions. I just wanted to, through you, Mr. Chair, a few questions or comments about the ride program and all the alcohol-related charges. So first of all, thank you for doing that little synopsis there. Is it out of place for us as a board to comment on where we may suspect some of this activity happening, or is that too much delving into the operations of police?
I through you, Mr. Chair, I think if it was high level enough, but if it was going to get too deep into operations, perhaps we can address that offline.
Okay. So yeah, I see 9 hours of ride program here, which is great, and it sounds like they're actually working in terms of being able to catch some of this bad activity. But out in the regions where I live, there's and I've brought this forward before, but there's a resident there that's faithfully walking every Sunday, and we see her on her way to church, and she's often got more than one grocery bag full of empties, and it's just it's rampant. And I know we've talked about it a lot around this table, but it's good to see that the ride programs are actually happening, and it's when you see the evidence laying there in the ditch all the time, it's obviously there's some areas I'm assuming that are worse than others. So it's just an observation I had. In addition to that, we spend our weekends and holidays at our sugar shack, and that involves me walking down streets collecting sap out of buckets, and it's just unbelievable how many empties you're coming across. It's not pop cans, it's beer cans. So that's why I just comment on that. Also, I had a related to the incidents and accidents. I was first on scene on an accident on golf links in Brant Road 25 last week. Fortunately, one of the people involved just had a fractured wrist, but I bring this up because I spoke to the mother. She came on the scene, and they live in Cathcart. I live in Harley. There's a major speeding problem. I know we talk about that as well, and I've never really brought up my own neighborhood, but that's exactly what was happening here. And we got chatting, and I told her my involvement with the Police Services Board, and she said, if there's anything you can do to bring that message back about Cathcart, and I'll throw in Harley at the same time because we're very, very close. Some of the speeding that's happening through those areas, and I know there's a police presence in Harley. I see that too. So just some observations to bring forward. Thank you.
Mayor Bailey.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I also have some observations to bring forward, and it's the property next to mine. I pick up probably every 3 days, at least a dozen cans of beer that have been thrown from cars in the parking lot over my fence. And so they're just obviously bringing last call to the car. And when they're finished, throwing them over my fence for whatever reason. So that's something that's just happening. It hasn't been this bad for a long time, but it's bad again right now. So I think maybe they're waiting in the parking lot and finishing off. I also have captured on tape 3 people trying to break into my house lately, where they just come up to the door, they don't knock, they don't ring the bells, they just start pushing on the handle. So I do have those. I did put them on Facebook. Community seems to have recognized a couple of them, and supposedly their parents have been told. But I still have those tapes if you're interested. If you're not interested, people in St. George are looking for them. So 3 in the last probably 6 weeks. Thank you.
That's probably something that should be offline with you and the inspector after the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I can just respond to Member Verhey's comments. We conducted 117 ride programs during the festive ride season, and they continue to happen daily. The other comment about the disposed empties, I had an opportunity to have a call with the Safe Streets team last week. They also have reports of what you're describing from a number of citizens, so they're going to be providing that data to me as well, so that I've heard your comments and your concerns from others in the community as well, so certainly we'll use that to certainly guide our patrols and where we set up ride initiatives as well. And Mr. Mayor, we can certainly discuss your concerns offline. Thank you.
Any further questions, Mr. Mayor?
Again, it's another concern. I don't know. I guess you probably heard that the police were called to my house for an emergency call. Did you hear about that? Anyway, I came upstairs to find policemen at my front door with flashlights saying that there were calls being made from my house, 911 calls. And so, of course, I let them through because there wasn't. And but I don't know if you heard about it or not, but I appreciated the fact that they didn't just run away. I saw cruisers circling my house for a little while. I also saw a cruiser out front of my house until my lights went out, and then in the morning I saw another cruiser parked in front of my house when I went for work. I went my way, they pulled out and went their way. So whether they were just concerned about the 911 coming from my house, I'm not sure why, but I did see a police presence until I left the next morning. So thank you for that.
Any further questions? We'll move on to the OPP false alarm report. It appears that there were 15 responses last month and all of them were warnings. Any comments concerning the OPP or the false alarm report? Hearing none, I request a motion to receive the detachment commanders and false alarm reports as information.
Question.
Go ahead.
To you, Mr. Chair, did we not have a request for a bit of a deeper dive into the alarm report at our last meeting?
I believe that's coming up
Sorry.
next on the agenda.
I didn't read ahead, sorry.
So can we have a motion to receive both items as information? Mr. Mayor, seconded by Member Verhey. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. We'll move on to item number 8, staff reports. Can I get a mover and a seconder to put this on the floor, please? Mr. Mayor and Member Verhey. We all have the report here. Do we have any questions for Heather Boyd, who has put this forward? Heather, is there anything you'd like to speak to on this?
Not particularly. I think this is kind of the format that will replace the other report going forward. And if there's any other statistics, there's still some things I wanted to pull together about growth percentages, like how many more alarms we actually have in the system, which is obviously going to contribute to some of the increase. And there's some more data to be pulled, but if there's anything members would specifically like to see, just let me know and I'll try to incorporate that for future reports.
Any comments on this? Member Verhey?
No comments. Thank you for putting it together, and I'll read it and maybe talk about it next time.
Can I have a motion to accept this report for information purposes? Member Verhey, seconded by Mayor Bailey. All in favor? We have a report from Heather Boyd recommending that the County of Brant Police Services Board allocate funding to a maximum of $1,500 towards the purchase of 2 banners and safety equipment, reflective vests and leg bands for the Paris Community Safety Group to be funded from the Police Services Board budget. Do you want this motion now? Can we get some motion to put this on the floor? Mayor Bailey? Seconded by Member Verhey. Discussion? Member Verhey?
I don't have a lot to add to this. We have talked a little bit back and forth, I think, over the past couple of years about this. And I believe we have paid for vests in the past, and in conjunction with the county, I'm not sure all the ins and outs and when they're supposed to be wearing them and who this group reports to. And I guess I'm just commenting on the fact that I have more questions than answers right now, and wondering if this should even be something that's really part of the Police Services Board in terms of these safety groups. Where do you start and where do you stop in terms of funding these types of things? High level, I guess, just to get the conversation going. I think I would support the fact that these types of requests should go through the county and be funded by the county if there's a need for that sort of thing. But maybe I can be better educated on sort of the structure and reporting of these groups.
Thank you. I'm aware that there is ongoing discussions happening between Inspector Quinville and Chair Haley and the Police Services Board as to who do these groups report to. I know they're looking into the future as to what the best layout would be for them. Should we be funding them as a Police Services Board, or should it be the county? I think that there's more information that we could have. I'm going to ask Inspector Quinville to comment on this, and then we can move forward.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I have initiated contact with corporate services to just get some consistency and ensure that I have an understanding of how the broader OPP manages the community safety groups. In addition to that, I will liaise with the other detachments within our syndicate, because as Chair Brown referenced, there's a need for consistency in the way that the groups are being run within the county. Certainly, Brant North has a set of bylaws that they adhere to, Brant East is just in the infancy of setting up a group, so very early stages. And I know that we were part of a call with the organizers there. And the Paris group has been operating, I understand, for a very long time, but it doesn't appear at this stage that there's any bylaws. And I think that perhaps that would be beneficial for all involved to understand the rules of engagement, if it's fair to say. So Chair Haley and I have been working on that for quite some. The discussions have been happening since her reappointment, so we're moving forward on that.
Member Verhey?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Heather Boyd, I'm assuming. Summary recommendations, is that a recommendation for us as a board to consider, or is this a recommendation for the county to provide banners and vests?
Well, these groups are formed through the OPP, so their minutes come to the board. My position is that they are function more of the board than, they're not a county committee at all. They're not appointed by the county. They don't follow the county's procedural rules. If the board turns this down, I will be suggesting to the group that they put a community grant application in at the county, but that would require the whole grant application process. So that's their other avenue, but they're not a county committee, so it wouldn't just automatically be funded through the county. No, it's not. There's no budget or anything for this group. It's not actually a county committee.
So how does the board wish to deal with this today? Member Verhey?
It'd probably be a little too hasty for me to say, you know, I personally wouldn't support approving this, but maybe it's better. I would like to see a little more structure around, or a little bit more information around who do they actually report to. Are we as a board responsible for this group or not? Because that may change how we make decisions if we're, you know, spending money on these groups. And I'm assuming that if they were to be reporting to us, there would be a little bit more transparency and a little bit more direction from parties involved in terms of what's happening and how it has to happen, et cetera. So I'm wondering if maybe we defer this and gather some more information around how these groups are set up and who they report to.
I agree. It would be nice for them to have a mandate, to have policies that they go by, and clear direction as to who they report to and who they request funding from. So would you like to see this move to the next meeting? Is it fair? Is one meeting enough for you to acquire the information that you're dealing with corporate services, or do we need to go 2 cycles on it?
I think we can schedule it for the next meeting and perhaps reevaluate as it gets closer and see how things are moving along.
Member Verhey?
So then maybe I'll make a motion to defer however long required.
Seconded by Mayor Bailey. All in favor? Motion to defer carried. Item 8.3, there was a request that had been made in December for camera funding for the OPP. And it was referred to council. Mayor Bailey, John's not here with us today. Can you provide us an update, please?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I know that Councillor Pierce is still working on it. Council is aware of it. I'm not sure that we've come to any conclusions yet, but it's the ball's not being dropped, so we'll maybe report to it on the next meeting.
Thank you very much. Item 9, communications. There are 3 items of communications that we have before us today. One is the spring conference. these are great opportunities to network and learn best practices from what others are doing. Jen and I have attended them in the past. Chair Haley has indicated that she's looking to register again, as will I be. Is there any other interest from the board members to attend? Member Verhey?
To answer your question, Mr. Chair, yeah, I'd likely attend for the Wednesday activities.
So we'll commit or we'll communicate our interest to Nancy to ensure that we're appropriately registered for that. Okay, and just as a note, in the past, all expenses will be paid by the Police Services Board budget for this event. Mayor Bailey?
I'd just like to make a motion to receive the communications, please.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a seconder? Member Verhey? And now we're into the discussion. So we're going to go through all three individually. We'll just go through all three. He did it for just a moment. The Brant Safety Symposium. The Brant County OPP invites us to the Brant Safety Symposium. Inspector Quinville, do you have anything to comment on this?
Through you, Mr. Chair. This was, I referenced this earlier in my report. This is the Brant Senior Symposium. That I know we have a significant number of people that have already registered to attend from the community. So looking to host this initial one in Paris and looking to other areas within the county going forward to offer a similar symposium.
Thank you. And the third item is the OPP Financial Services Unit update. And they're pleased to advise that we've received the Court Security Prisoner Transportation Grant in the amount of $3,278. Any comments or concerns about any of the three pieces of correspondence? All in favor? Carried. We'll move on to updates. Section 10.1, Council Communications. Councillor Pierce is not here with us today. Mr. Mayor, is there anything that...
No, I don't believe there was anything else other than the conversation regarding the cameras.
Thank you. Member Verhey, Zone 4.
Big section today. So tomorrow we have our meeting in Halton. So very much looking forward to going to Halton to have our first in-person meeting. So we'll be starting, I guess the information is here in the package. Thanks to Brant for issuing payment. I think they were first again for our dues. So dues have started coming in. The agenda's here. I issued the minutes. The funding, like the form for membership has been issued as well. You see that. Elections, that's probably the biggest point, just for information. I don't want to bore you with too many details unless you have questions, but right now we're a one-person board. So I've been quite occupied with playing treasurer, secretary, and chair for this first in-person meeting with not a lot of experience. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks to piece this all together. So if you have questions, please feel free to throw them at me. The budget that is a statement of operations there that is accurate as of September 2022. So we have to make a new statement. But I'm hoping that as a result of our meeting tomorrow, we're going to have a re-elected chair, vice chair, secretary treasurer, which is one and the same role in our bylaws as Zone 4, and a Zone 4 board representative. So all vacant. So like I said, it's kind of a lot of things have fallen through the cracks, but we're picking them all up, and we are in good shape for tomorrow's meeting. So voting will be a top priority, and Zone 4, Lisa Darling is going to be present to actually run the elections with her crew, which is wonderful. So we follow all the right protocols. What else did I have to add? Also, I wanted to just chat about your email, Nancy, regarding setup of meetings. I know I didn't respond to you yet, but just get some questions about how that all goes. So I read that and thought, yeah, I kind of have the same questions. So I am meeting with Dave Ecke. I believe he is representing Zone 4 OACP, Chiefs of Police, Ontario Association Chiefs of Police. So he's been the organizer on behalf of his boss for this Zone 4 meeting. So I was just taking direction from him on where the meeting was happening and timing and all of that good stuff. And then I think they've since issued, or they have since issued the next meetings and where they're hosted and who's hosting them. So in the past, I was under the impression that there was a bit of a cycle that was set up, and we as police, Zone 4 Police Service Board versus Zone 4 Chiefs of Police would kind of work together and collaboratively and plan out where those meetings go. For example, I think for the last 2-3 years, we've been planning to have it in Haldimand, and they were awaiting our presence there, but now it's in Halton. So I don't really know how that works and how who decides where they're hosted and how they're hosted. I do know that probably just before COVID, I brought a report to the table to get opinions from all the boards if we wanted to maintain the fee structure for zones, which we voted in favor of keeping. So 3-member boards, 5-member boards, $30 and $50 respectively. That is what makes up our budget, and it's predominantly for funding these meetings. So there is budget for it, but tradition has it that the host municipality just flips the tab. So I think the last one that I could speak to was here in Brant County in the sports complex. I think that was my very first meeting, and we only had 2 meetings before we had to go virtual with COVID. And I believe the county just flipped the tab, but there is budget here, and the point of that budget is for us to pay for any fees, which is usually a room booking, a breakfast, and refreshments. So tomorrow it's going to be in the Holiday Inn in Halton, in Oakville. So there's obviously fees involved, and I did get clarification from David through Hamilton that Halton was paying, and they won't be submitting a bill to us as a Zone 4 Police Services Board. So that's what I know about that. I'll hope to speak to him in person and say, how does this work in terms of booking locations in the future, unless Inspector Quinville, if you have anything to add to that I'm not aware of.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So we have secured the Brant Sports Complex just in the interest of having a space for our May 3rd event. And was looking ahead to the land acknowledgement, who can deliver that, and actually getting one prepared. That's obviously Brant specific. And also looking to identify a guest speaker, and have had that early morning. There's usually a time slot, I think, of close to an hour for a guest speaker. So started to work on that as well. But perhaps we can chat offline further about that. So 2 rooms secured at the Brant complex to allow for the breakout space as well.
just to follow up on that, are you aware of anything in terms of how were you informed that Brant was going to be hosting? Did we just volunteer, or did they come to us and say it's your turn?
I was at the last meeting and they said OPP, which one of these dates do you want? And unfortunately, I was the only OPP officer there, so that's how that went. It certainly wasn't formal.
Thanks
So-
for the update, Member Verhey. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, I seek a motion to receive as information. Mayor Bailey, seconded by Member Verhey. Item 10.3 is the chair update. I have nothing from Chair Haley, and we'll just continue on to our next meeting as normal. 10.4 is priorities. They're ongoing and being discussed, and we will address them as they become apparent at our next meeting. There's no requirement for an in-camera meeting today. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, March 21st at 9 a.m. Seeking a motion to adjourn. Mayor Bailey. Thank you very much.